All right, I have my mighty hoops. I have 3 of them, and it's time to add them to my new Ricoma Marquee 2001 with the 10S panel. I'm going to show you how I did it. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crafting with Delonda. It's me again, Delonda, and thank you so much for joining me today. In today's tutorial, I am going to show you how to add mighty hoops to your Ricoma. I currently have a Ricoma Marquee 2001 20 needle machine with the 10S panel. And let me just go ahead and say, I absolutely love it. I have learned so many things already. And as I promised, I'm going to share everything I'm learning with you along the way. Today is all about the mighty hoops. I'm going to show you how I added the 5x5 hoop, the 11x13 hoop, and the 8x13 hoop to my Ricoma, and just kind of tell you about my logic for doing it the way I do it. Now, remember, there is a link below in order for you to make a purchase of mighty hoops, and it does come with free shipping when you use my link. In addition to that, if you are interested in getting a Ricoma, you might not be interested in getting a 20 needle. However, Ricoma does have a 10 needle. Whichever Ricoma you purchase, make sure to look at the ones that have the 10S panel, because that panel is absolutely amazing. But back to our mighty hoops. I'm going to show you all the things, and I hope it helps you. At the end of this video, if you find it helpful, remember to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the bell for notifications, because I do upload new content every single week. Now, without further ado, let's start at the machine. We'll go back to the computer so that I can show you all the things that I've learned and the things that I'm going to do. And then we'll go back over to the machine and we'll finish it up and we will land this plane. Let's get started. All right, let's start off by looking at the 10S panel. And one thing I want you to notice is what I noticed when I was setting up my embroidery hoops. So right now I'm in setup mode according to the panel. And let's just say, for example, I selected this design, which is the size of a patch. If I went over here to select hoop, and let's say I wanted to select hoop A. Okay, I could go here to hoop A. I can click select hoop. I'm not going to, but instead of actually selecting hoop A, I'm going to click on these 3 dots and click edit. When I look at the size of hoop A, I can see that it's round. It's the X and the Y size in inches is 2.76. The X center is 1.73 and the Y center is 0.16. When I spoke with a Ricoma representative, I was like, what does this mean, this rounded number? What was explained to me is that the higher you go here, the more round the design would be. So I didn't really have an explanation for what numbers to use here on rounded, but I really didn't care about that. It kind of reminded me that, or it kind of made me think that this number, this 1.38, was half of 2.76, because if you do 138 times 2, that's exactly what you'll get is 276, but that logic didn't work every time. So let's go back. Let's look at hoop B. I'm going to click the 3 dots and click edit. Okay, so here I am again. The X and Y size 3.94. These numbers, this 1.73 and this 0.16, is exactly the same as what I saw in hoop A. So that kind of got my wheels spinning. Okay, I kind of got my wheels spinning. I started to think, okay, maybe I'm onto something. I can still see that rounded would give me half of this. So let's go back. Remember that 1.73 and that 0.16. Let's look at hoop C. I'm gonna click edit. Okay, same thing, 1.73 and 16. These numbers so far, the X and Y center, no matter what hoop, A, B, or C, these numbers haven't changed, even though the hoop has gotten bigger. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at hoop D. 1.73, 0.16. Okay, I feel like this is all starting to make sense to me now. Let's look at hoop E. Hoop E is not round. It's more of a square shape, but not really a perfect, it's like a rounded square, okay? So let's see what happens here. Let's click on the three dots and click edit. Okay, so 1.73 and 16, I'm starting to notice a pattern here. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's go to hoop F. Let's click the three dots. Let's click edit. 1.73 and 16, it all is making sense to me now. That lets me know in my mind that 1.73 for the x-axis, let's look at that again. 1.73 for the x center and 0.16 for the y center is actually the center of the machine. That's my logic, okay? That is the logic I'm going to go with. All right, so what I did after I found that all the way from hoop A all the way to hoop F. It wasn't the same for hoop G, but hoop G is an outlier. And I wasn't concerned about the hooping for the hat because that has nothing to do with the mighty hoops that I purchased. So what I did was, let's just say I wanted to go with hoop F. Let's go to select hoop and let's see what happens to the machine. So let's kind of just scoot over and let's see what happens to the brackets and the pantograph. And we'll also make a note of what is going to happen on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to click OK because I'm going to select hoop F, even though I'm not really using hoop F. I know you can't really see what's happening to the pantograph rail, but look right here. Hoop F is 19.29 by 13.58. And I can see, let me get you a little bit closer. I can see that the x-axis and the y-axis and this P and Y, all of these numbers are equal to 0. And these are the standard hoops that came with my Ricoma Marquee 2001. So what I started to wonder and started to just really think about is what would be different? What would be the difference if I added my mighty hoops with those same X and Y center? So what I did was I went back to select hoop. I went to custom. I went over to the Mighty Hoops website and I got the actual measurements from Mighty Hoops for the 3 new hoops that I purchased. Let's go over to the computer now and get those numbers, and we're going to enter these in again and see if it works. I am on the hoopmaster.com website, and what I would do is go to the Shop Mighty Hoops products, and I would scroll down and look for my machine, which is a Ricoma. I'm going to click right here. I can see there are 43 different products for Ricoma. And I'm going to scroll down and look for the hoops that I have. So the first hoop that I have is the Ricoma 5.5 Mighty Hoop. So I'm going to click right there on the hoop. And right here under the description, it says the inside dimension of this hoop is 5 5/16, which is equivalent to 5.30. So what I did was I just wrote that information down. And I knew that for my measurements, I was going to input 5.30. Okay, so I know that I have that information. You can look at additional information if you need to, but I knew that this is what I would need to put in, not the actual 5 by 5. Okay, so the next thing I did was I just went back and then I selected the second hoop I have, which is the 8 by 13 Mighty Hoop. And for the 8 by 13 Mighty Hoop, the inside dimension is 7 5/8 by 12 3/4. So the dimensions that I've actually put in on my Ricoma is 7.66 by 12.81. Okay, so I knew that was what I was going to put in. You can see the cost of the Mighty Hoop. And remember, with my link below, you do get free shipping. The shipping does come pretty fast. All right, and then the last hoop that I have is this one right here. My next purchase is going to be the 10 by 10, but for right now, I have the 11 by 13. So if I click on that, I can see that the inside dimension of this hoop is 10 3/4 by 12 3/4. So the numbers that I put in on my Ricoma was 10.81 by 12.81. And that's what I did. Let's head back over to the machine so we can put these numbers in and see if our design is actually centered. All right, we're back over here at the panel. I'm going to just click the screen. I'm going to go to add hoop, and let's add the 5 by 5 mighty hoop. So the X size, remember I said I would just write it down. The number I wrote down was 5.3. The Y size is equivalent, 5.3. And that X center is 1.73. And the Y center is automatic, so I didn't have to put anything in there. And because right here, let me change this. I forgot the decimal. Okay, and let's go here. So now it is a little bit rounded. So what I need to do is, what I actually did was I just put in 1.5 right here just to round it a little bit, and I clicked done. And this gave me a replica of what the 5 by 5 mighty hoop actually looks like. So I was quite excited about this. And just to be on the safe side, what I did was I clicked save. Well, let me give it a name. Let's call it Mighty Hoop. Let's give it a space right there. Space. Test. Okay, you won't let me, let's just call it a mighty hoop like that. Okay, and let's go and click save. All right, so here's my mighty hoop, is this one right here. And if I select that hoop, this one right here, what I should see on my screen is that it's centered on the machine. So let's go and click select hoop, click OK. And there's my hoop. And there are my zeros. It is exactly centered. So I was like, okay, this looks great. Let's check the 8 by 13 hoop. So let's add that hoop. I'm going to click add hoop. And for the 8 by 13 size, the X size, which is the wider size, would be 12.81, and the Y size was 7.66. Okay, and then for my X center, I entered 1.73. 73. The X center, the Y center is automatic. And let me kind of just try to round it out a little bit by adding that 1.5 and see if that helps. And there I go. So I'm going to call this the 8 by 13. So I'm going to click save. And so now I have that one. Now let's add the last one, which is the 11 by 13. Now, of course, with all of the hoops, it's best for your X size, you enter the widest size first. So for my X size for the 11 by 13, I'm going to enter 12.81. And for the Y size, I'm going to enter 10.81. And for the X center, 1.73. The Y center is 16. I'm still going to add that 1.5 for rounded and see if it works. That looks just like my 11 by 13 hoop. So I'm going to name this and save this. Now the true test for me is making sure that no matter which one of these hoops I select from the ones I added, is making sure that my X, all of my numbers are going to come out to 0. So we've already seen the 5 by 5 will give me those zeros. Let me select the 8 by 13 and click select. I'm going to click OK. Let's see if I get zeros down here, because my machine should be centering this. So I have it all on 0 here. Let's look at my Ricoma. Let's see if it's all centered. In my opinion, it does look centered. Right now, I'm going to select the 11 by 13 that I just added. I'm going to click select hoop. Okay. Let's see what happens. So my Ricoma is centering that. It looks great. So now the true test, the additional true test would be what it looks like when I put those hoops on the machine. So let's actually do that. Let's start with the 5 by 5. Let's get it hooped and let's trace and see if it's actually going to work. Okay, I have my 5 by 5 mighty hoop right here, and I don't need to have any stabilizer on it. We're not getting ready to stitch anything, but let's go here to the panel. Let's select the hoop, the one I just added. I call it the mighty hoop, and I have my numbers in there. I'm going to click select hoop. I'm going to click OK. Okay, all of my numbers are at 0 here. I'm going to add the hoop to the Ricoma. Now my brackets are on the 5th notch from the left and right. So in order to add my brackets on my pantograph rail, I counted over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here on the right, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here on the left. So of course, when you're hooping, you're going to make sure your U is what is on your right side. That's what's on my right side. And I'm going to get this put in here. Okay, and I think that looks great. And now if I were ready to, let's just say I was ready to embroider, I go into embroidery mode and I could go into trace, and I could trace it and see if it looks right. It looks great. All right. And one thing to also note, my hoop, this notch on my hoop, let me kind of zoom out so you can see this notch right here on my mighty hoop is directly centered with this arm. Okay, so it's directly centered. So that also lets me know that my hoop is centered with my Ricoma. Let's do the same test with the 8 by 13 and the 11 by 13. Now, one thing I highly suggest you do before you start to insert a different size hoop is attach the brackets, these brackets, to the hoop you're planning to use. So that takes the guesswork out of where the brackets go on the pantograph rail, because it's not always easy to figure that out. So what I typically do is I move my needle over to 1 when I need to work over here on the right, and I move it over to 20 when I need to work over here on the left. So right now my needle is on 1, and I'm going to try to find the center. Okay, make sure it's completely inserted on both sides and that the brackets from the hoop are secure and fully attached. And I can tell that my hoop is centered right here with this arm. So now what I'm going to do is use my number 4 wrench to tighten up these screws back here, and we will test it to see if the hoop is actually centered. All right, I have my 8 by 13 on the machine. I can see that it looks like it's centered right here. This notch right here is centered right here. Let's go back. Let's choose that hoop. Let's go back. Let's go to select hoop. And it's the 8x13 hoop. And let's click select. Let's click OK. Let's see if it's still going to be centered. If we want to get all of our zeros right here, I think that looks excellent. And it's centered right here with the arm. I think that looks fantastic. Hopefully you are finding this helpful. So I would do the same thing pretty much with the 11x13 hoop. I don't even think I would need to move the brackets from the pantograph rail because of the size of the 11x13 hoop. But if I did, all I would do is lift up here slightly, just lift up on both sides, pull out the hoop. I would grab my 11x13. I'm going to insert it. Remember, the U is always right here on the right. And let's see. It's a perfect snug fit on both sides. I can see that that notch right here, this little notch is centered right here. And if I go to select hoop on the screen, I can select that 11x13 hoop, click select hoop, click OK, and it should come right back to the center. Let's see. There are my zeros. There is my center. This looks excellent. Let me share my final thoughts. So hopefully you have found this information helpful and you learned a thing or two about hooping and how to add hoops and all of those things. I will be sharing a lot of baby beginner tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, as I promised I would. And I hope it helps you if you are at the beginning of your embroidery journey. Now remember, today's video is all about mighty hoops and how to add them to your Ricoma. But I also want to remind you to check out the Ricoma website. I do have links below the video. Those are my personal affiliate links, not just for embroidery machines, but Ricoma has a full line of different products. I would love for you to check them out. If you have found this helpful, remember to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the bell for notifications because I do upload new content every single week. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thanks for watching. Bye.